They expected her back. That was the promise, that she would return, rods in hand, ready to wake Sango from his long sleep beneath the willow tree. But 5 years had passed, and Era had not come back. Deep in the forest, where the air stayed cool and the ground hummed with memory, the animals gathered. This was not a casual meeting. It was a council, old, sacred, and silent. Only the chosen could speak here. Only the forest could listen. Lion stood at the center, tall, patient, his mane brushed gently by the wind. Raven sat on a crooked branch just above him, watching from above as she always did. Snake curled near the roots of the old Iroko tree, still as stone. Tiger paced at the edge of the grove, his anger wrapped tight around his chest. And then, swinging down from a vine like he had all the time in the world, came Monkey. But not just any monkey. This one moved too smoothly, smiled too easily. His words always came wrapped in sugar, even when they stung. It was Eshu. And when he spoke, the whole grove seemed to lean closer. "She's not coming back," he said simply, brushing a leaf from his shoulder. "Not today, not ever." Raven narrowed her eyes. "You don't know that." "Oh, but I do," Eshu said, stepping into the circle. "I've seen her, with my own eyes. Era has chosen a different life, one with comfort, one with a man." The wind rustled. No one spoke. "She lives in a human village now," he continued. "Wakes up beside him, eats by his fire, laughs in his arms." He paused, then added with a smirk, "That wide round backside of hers, still turning heads every time she walks to the stream." Tiger froze. "Who?" he asked, his voice already trembling. Eshu let it hang for just a second too long. "Obafemi?" he said. "The hunter." The grove went still. Tiger's claws dug slightly into the ground. His voice came quiet but heavy. "Obafemi killed my cubs, my siblings, my blood. Their bones still lie near his traps. And you're telling me?" "She chose him," Eshu finished for him. "Yes." Raven shook her head slowly. "No, not Era. She said she would find the rods. She said she would come back." Eshu shrugged. "Then where is she? Has she even set foot near the palace? Has she tried to search for the rods even once?" No one answered. Tiger looked at Lion now, eyes full of fury. "She knew what that man did to my family, and she still..." Lion didn't flinch, but his silence said enough. Eshu stepped back, folding his arms. "Time has passed. Feelings fade. Maybe she forgot. Maybe she stopped believing in the old ways. Maybe she just liked the taste of salt and palm oil too much to come back." "That's enough," Lion said calmly. Eshu raised his hands in mock surrender. "I only speak what I've seen." Lion looked around the grove. The silence had changed. What was once doubt was now something else. Something darker. "We will not act on words alone," he said. "Not even yours, Monkey." Then he turned towards Snake. Snake lifted his head, his tongue flickering once. "Go," Lion said. "Find her. Watch with your own eyes. If Era has truly forgotten her task, we must know for certain." Snake gave a slow nod, then slithered off into the dark, disappearing into the grass like he had never been there. The forest held its breath. Far away, in a quiet village, tucked between 2 rivers, a woman stirred in her sleep. Her wrapper had shifted as she turned, revealing the soft, heavy curve of her backside, a shape still whispered about in the village square. Obafemi snored beside her, dead to the world, and the truth that slept next to him. And while they rested, the forest did not. Because the forest, no matter how long it waits, never forgets. 5 years had passed. And in the village of Odell, Era was now just the quiet woman who grew herbs behind her house and walked to the stream every morning with her headscarf tied low. They called her wife of Obafemi, but never quite as kindly as they once did. At first, people watched her with curiosity, her full figure, especially that wide, confident backside. The way it moved when she carried baskets or bent to cut leaves, it gave the men something to whisper about, and it gave the women something to fear. But time has a way of turning admiration into suspicion. And when no child came, not one cry, not even a bump after 5 years, Odell found a new story to tell. She sold her womb, one old woman muttered at the yam stall. For what? Another asked. For power, the first one whispered. For knowledge of roots and medicine. That's why her herbs work. She gave the gods her belly in exchange. Of course, no one ever said it to her face. They just stared a little longer when she passed, asked strange, loaded questions, prayed a little louder whenever she walked by. And Era, she said nothing. She kept planting. She kept smiling, gently. She kept her secrets to herself. Even Obafemi didn't know the truth. He saw only what the world let him see, a beautiful, strange woman who never bled, never wept, never spoke of where she came from. And the silence. It started to wear him down. At first, he held on. He told himself the gods would answer them in time. He defended her in public, frowning at the old men who made jokes about barren women with big hips. But as the months stretched into years, and Era stayed quiet, something in him began to break. Then came Okoro, the palm wine tapper. Okoro had a crooked grin and a voice that knew how to turn pain into laughter. He lived under the big iroko tree at the edge of the stream, and his calabash was always full even when it shouldn't have been. Obafemi found him there one afternoon. They drank. Then they drank again. And slowly, the hunter, who once walked with pride, began to stumble. What are you running from? Okoro asked after the third gourd. Obafemi chuckled, bitter. Who says I'm running? But the wine had loosened his mouth. My wife, he said. She doesn't cry. She doesn't beg. Not for a child. Not for anything. It's like she's already made peace with it. Okoro nodded, as if he understood something ancient. Some women, he said, are made of smoke. You think you've caught them, until you try to hold on. That line stayed with Obafemi. And over time, he fell first into drink, then into the arms of the widow who sold cola by the roadside. Then into lies that even he couldn't keep straight anymore. He stopped coming home early, stopped remembering Era's birthdays, stopped seeing her completely, and Era still said nothing. She let the night stretch out. She let him stay away. She let her hands stay busy, her lips stay sealed. But someone else was watching. High in the trees behind their home, 2 golden eyes blinked in the dark. Snake had been there for weeks, hidden in the branches, breathing slowly, listening. He saw how Era bent down to touch the soil with care, how she whispered to the leaves like they whispered back, how her wide, heavy hips shifted gracefully as she worked as if the earth had shaped her on purpose. She was quiet, but not at peace. And Snake? He waited. That's what made him dangerous. He didn't need to accuse her. Not yet. He just needed to know. Was she still the one they had trusted? The bearer of Sango's mission? Or had she chosen another life? One the gods never approved? That night, as Obafemi snored with his mouth open, and Okoro's wine still thick on his breath, Era stepped outside, barefoot. She stood in the cool soil behind her hut and tilted her face toward the sky. Her wrapper clung to her figure, the curve of her backside catching moonlight like a secret she never meant to share. And then she whispered something, so soft the breeze almost swallowed it. But Snake heard it. And what he heard chilled him to the bone. Snake returned just before dawn. No sound announced his arrival. No leaf moved beneath his scales. He simply appeared in the grove, coiled near the roots of the ancient tree as if he had never left. The forest was still dark, but the others were already waiting. Lion stood tall, though his eyes looked wearier than before. Raven perched high above, half shrouded in shadow. Tiger paced the edge of the circle again, tail twitching, breath hot. Monkey lounged on a branch just above them, chewing lazily on a mango, wearing someone else's calm. Lion spoke first. "You saw her?" Snake nodded once, slowly. "She lives in Odell," he said, voice flat. "In a small house with garden, beside Obafemi." No one interrupted. "She tills the land, dries herbs, speaks to no gods. She walks freely through the village, laughs sometimes, wears cloth like the humans do, sleeps in his hut." Raven tilted her head. "But what of her mission?" Snake's tongue flicked. "She has made no effort to recover the sacred rods." A sharp breath ran through the grove. "She does not speak of Sango, does not go near the palace, and she has never once approached the willow tree." Tiger growled. Monkey sat up a little straighter. Now, he tossed the mango aside and stood. "Well," he said, "there it is." He looked around the grove, his voice dripping with satisfaction. "So, the truth is clear. She never intended to return. She abandoned the rods. She abandoned Sango. She abandoned us." Tiger snarled low and dangerous, "and chose a man who hunts with iron." Raven's voice cut through the noise. "Or maybe she's waiting. Maybe she's gathering strength. 5 years is long, yes, but the world of men moves differently. She may still come." Monkey smirked. "Hope," he said. "It's the last lie we tell ourselves." Lion was quiet. Too quiet. The grove felt heavier now, as if the trees themselves were tired of waiting. Then Monkey stepped forward. "I have a suggestion," he said slowly, carefully. "Let me use what remains of the divine energy Sango once placed in her." Eyes turned toward him. "I won't take it all, just half, enough to return her to her true form, a bear, by night." Silence. "Then we will see where her heart truly lies." Raven flapped her wings in protest. "That power was sacred, meant for her. Sango gave it." "Sango sleeps," Monkey interrupted, calm but firm. "And his vessel? She sleeps too in a hunter's bed." No one spoke. Then Tiger stepped forward. His eyes were cold. "If she walks as a bear again, and still stays among the humans, then we'll know." Monkey nodded. "Exactly." Raven turned to Lion now, her voice tight. "You can't agree to this." Lion closed his eyes. And for a moment, the grove held its breath. Then he said quietly, "How many more must we lose, waiting for someone who may never return?" Monkey stepped back, satisfied. Tiger didn't wait for a vote. "Let it begin," he growled. And just like that, the choice was made. The council dispersed in silence. One by one, they faded back into the trees. Even Raven, though she looked back once, wings trembling. Only Monkey remained. He stood beneath the great tree, staring up at the sky, just starting to shift from blue to grey. Then he smiled. Not the wide, silly grin of a trickster, but something smaller, sharper, older. Far away, in the village of Odell, the moon hung low in the morning sky, faint, pale, but watching. Inside the small hut near the edge of the village, Era stirred in her sleep. She turned on her mat, her wrapper clinging softly to her curves. Her back rose and fell in steady rhythm, wide hips still and peaceful under the weight of dreams. Obafemi lay beside her, snoring gently, the scent of palm wine on his breath. Neither of them noticed the soft shiver that passed through the room. A chill not born from wind, but something older. Something waking up. Because the forest had spoken, and the first change had already begun. The sky was soft and grey when Raven found her. Era was bent low in her garden, her wrapper tied tightly at the waist, fingers dusty with earth. Her back moved gently as she reached for a stalk of bitter leaf, her breath calm, her mind elsewhere. She didn't hear the wings at first, but she felt the wind shift just slightly. Then a voice. "He watches you, even now." Era didn't look up. "Which one?" she asked. Raven landed on a branch just above the garden, her feathers dull in the morning haze. The one with no legs, the one with eyes like smoke. Era stood slowly, brushing her hands against her thighs. "So he told them everything?" Raven said. And they listened. There was a long silence. Then Era looked up, her voice soft. "Did you?" Raven tilted her head. "I remember the promise you made. I remember the fire in your voice when you said you'd return with the rods. But it's been 5 years, Era. 5. Era looked away. "I wanted peace," she whispered. "Just for a little while." "And now?" Raven asked. Era didn't answer, but something in her face had already shifted. That night, Odell was quiet. The children had gone to bed early. The palm wine spots were half full, the song softer. A weak moon hung in the sky, shy behind clouds. Inside the hut, Obafemi snored beside an empty gourd, lips stained with wine. His shirt was half unbuttoned, his dreams lost in shadows. Era sat at the edge of the mat, staring at her hands. They were trembling. She stood slowly and wrapped her shawl around her shoulders. Then she stepped outside. The earth was cool. The trees whispered like they were warning her. She walked until the village lights faded behind her, until the grass grew wild and the branches thickened. And then she felt it. That ancient ache in her bones, the slow tightening of skin. The pull not painful, but heavy, deep. She dropped to her knees. Her fingers cracked first, then her spine arched. Her skin shimmered, shifted, stretched. And in the stillness of the woods, she became what she had buried. The bear, thick fur, golden brown, heavy paws that crushed the grass beneath them, breath that came hot and slow from a wide black snout. She stood there for a while, not moving, not roaring, just breathing. And somewhere in the trees above, Raven watched her. The next morning, the rumors started. Someone had found deep claw marks in the banana grove. Another claimed they saw broken branches behind the yam field, too wide for any man, they said. By afternoon, someone else whispered that goat bones were found near the stream, picked clean, scattered. dragged. The hunters muttered quietly to each other. The elders called it nonsense. But the villagers knew. Something was moving in the woods. Back at home, Obafemi barely noticed. He came in late, left early, his breath always sour, his eyes always tired. He grumbled when Era didn't respond to his muttered greetings. He frowned when he noticed her sleeping outside. Some nights, for fresh air, she said. But he never asked questions, and she never gave answers. Still, the tension grew. Era could feel a shift. In the stares at the stream, in the way the market women stepped aside to let her pass, but never looked her in the eye. By the third night, she couldn't take it. She went into the woods again, transformed, ran for miles under the moonlight. Let the wind whip past her, the leaves scratch against her thick coat. But even in her beast form, the guilt followed her. She thought of the rods, of Sango's sleep beneath the willow tree, of the blood promise she had once made, and the man who now shared her bed, snoring and stumbling through life. She thought of how far she'd come, and how far she'd fallen. Back in the trees, Snake waited again. He had seen enough. And now the animals would decide. The king of Odell did not speak often. But when he did, the village listened. He was a quiet man, thoughtful, the kind of leader who watched more than he spoke. And he had been watching Obafemi for some time now. He'd seen the way the hunter's shoulders had slouched with the years, how the lines around his eyes deepened with something heavier than age. And, though the village gossiped in corners, the king waited. Until one morning he sent for him. The palace wasn't grand. Just a compound of red earth walls and carved wooden doors, but it held history in its silence, and respect in every stone. Obafemi entered slowly, his head low, his steps unsure. Inside, the king sat on a mat surrounded by carved stools. A pot of pepper soup steamed quietly beside him. The smell was rich, full of memories. He gestured, "Sit, my son." Obafemi obeyed. They ate first. No questions, no titles, just meat, broth, and quiet. The way elders and younger men often did when something needed to be said, but not too fast. When the bowls were nearly empty, the king finally spoke. "I see your heart is heavy." Obafemi didn't answer at first. "The gods give blessings in their time," the king said softly. "But sometimes, a man must act, not wait." Obafemi looked up slowly. "You mean, take another wife?" The king met his gaze. "You are a good man. You have built your home with dignity. But 5 years is a long time. The people are whispering. You know this." Obafemi's jaw tightened. "And I have not stopped them," the king added. "But I can give you my blessing. Openly. You won't be shamed." For a moment, nothing moved. Then Obafemi spoke, voice low, almost tired. "I love her too much to shame her." The king watched him closely. "Even if it means dying without a child?" Obafemi didn't reply. He simply stood. "Thank you, my king." And then he left. But something had entered his heart. Not the king's words. Not the village whispers. Not even the long nights alone. It was doubt. Small, quiet, but sharp. And doubt has a way of turning love into something colder. That night, Era stood once again at the edge of the forest. The moon was full, the wind restless. She could feel it building the shift, the change, the call. She took one step into the tall grass, then another. And just as her skin began to glow, Her bones began to shift. They came from the shadows. Fast, silent, determined. Tiger struck first, leaping from the brush with a roar that split the trees. Snake darted forward next, his body shimmering like smoke. Even Monkey was there, not grinning now, just watching. Era barely had time to rise onto her full-formed thick fur, powerful limbs, heavy breath. But this wasn't a hunt. It was punishment. They circled her, growled, bit, slashed. She fought back not to kill, but to survive. Her claws caught Tiger's shoulder. Her roar sent birds flying, but she was outnumbered, and they knew her every move. Then came Raven. She swooped low and shrieked, "Enough!" For a moment the grove froze. "Let her speak." Tiger growled, blood at his mouth. "She's had 5 years to speak." "Then give her 7 days now," Raven pleaded. 7 days to prove herself. If she fails, end it. But not like this. Not in shadows. The others hesitated. Even Tiger. And Era, gasping, bleeding, eyes wild, nodded. 7 days, she rasped. The wind answered before the others did. The forest had heard the deal. Far away, in a quiet hut, Obafemi stirred in his sleep. A dream flickered in his mind. Of fur, of teeth, of glowing eyes in the dark. He turned and reached for Era. But her side of the mat was cold. The forest was still burning with the heat of the fight. Leaves lay trampled. Claw marks scarred the bark. Blood soaked the roots of the old tree. And in the middle of it all, Era stood in bare form, chest heaving, eyes glowing faint gold, body trembling but upright. Around her the animals circled slowly. Tiger paced with his wound wrapped in leaves. Snake coiled tighter than usual, unreadable. Monkey leaned lazily against a tree, but his eyes never left her. And Raven hovered just above, silent now, watching what she had brought Era with her mercy time. Era took a shaky breath and raised her head. "I never betrayed you," she said, her voice a deep rumble in that half-human, half-beast tone. "I never turned away from Sango." Tiger spat. "Then why didn't you return?" "Because I was tired," she said, the words falling heavy. "Because I was human for once. Because I wanted to remember what peace felt like, even if it was borrowed." Monkey stepped forward, his voice soft but cutting. 5 years, Era. 5. Not 5 days. Not 5 moons. 5 years of silence. 5 years of nothing. Era turned to him. "You lie," she said. "You twist the truth so well, you forget where it ends." Monkey blinked slowly, then smiled. "Then explain it. Explain the silence. Explain Obafemi. Explain the rods." The mention of the rods sent a chill through the circle. And Era lowered her eyes. "The rods," she said slowly, "are still in the palace. I know where they are now, but I was afraid." "Afraid of what?" Raven asked gently. "Afraid of what would happen if I brought them back," Era said. "Afraid that waking Sango would mean war. That I would lose everything. Again." Tiger growled. "We lost everything too." "I know," she whispered. For a moment, no one spoke. Then she looked up, her voice stronger now. "Give me 7 days. Let me retrieve the rods. Let me bring them to the willow tree. Let me wake him and end this." "You had years," Monkey muttered. "Then give me 7 days more," Era said. "If I fail, you can end me. I won't run." The circle was quiet. Then Raven spoke. "She deserves that much." Lion, who had said nothing since the ambush, finally stepped forward. His eyes met Era's not with trust, but with duty. 7 days, he said. No more. And just like that, it was done. The council dispersed into the shadows. But not all returned to their corners. Back in Odell, Obafemi sat on the edge of his mat, staring into the fire. His eyes were bloodshot. His hands smelled of sweat and fermented wine, but his mind was clear. Something had changed. He had seen the claw marks, heard the whispers, watched Era leave the hut every night just before the moon peaked. And on the 5th night, he followed her. Not loudly, not with a hunter's pride, but with a broken man's suspicion. He moved carefully, staying just far enough behind to avoid her notice. Through the trees, past the stream, into the thicker bush where the air grew heavy and the leaves no longer danced. Then he saw it. Her. Era. At first, she stood still under the moonlight. Her wrapper hung loose around her waist. Her hair was tied back. Her skin shone with sweat. Then she dropped to her knees. Obafemi blinked. Her body shimmered and changed. Her arms thickened. Her skin darkened into fur. Her back stretched, widened, cracked. Her face vanished into a snout. Where his wife had once stood, a bear now breathed. Obafemi stumbled back, nearly choking on the gasp that rose in his throat. He gripped the tree beside him to keep from falling. He had followed a secret. And found a lie with claws. He turned away quickly, retreating into the trees, heart pounding like war drums. Back in the clearing, Era lifted her head. Her ears twitched, but she heard nothing. Behind her, the moon watched in silence. And far off, in the village, a hunter stood at the edge of everything he thought he knew and watched it burn. Obafemi didn't speak for hours. Not on the way back. Not when he crossed the stream. Not even when he stepped into his own compound and sat beside the dying fire. He just stared. At nothing. His hands were stiff. His face was blank. But inside, something was breaking. The image wouldn't leave him the way her body shifted under the moon. The way her skin cracked open like a lie finally shedding its mask. That curve he had once held with desire. Her wide hips he had praised, admired, now wrapped in fur and teeth and silence. Era, his wife, a bear. And not just a beast. A liar. By morning he was no longer hurt. He was angry, bitter, sharp, drowning in it kind of angry. The kind that sits behind the eyes and sours everything you see. He thought of the nights she had crept out quietly. The mornings she returned with no words. The soft way she looked at him, like he was a fool. She had made a mockery of his love. And now, he told himself, he would do what hunters were born to do. He whispered the vow through clenched teeth as he stared at her empty mat. Next time she is human, I will end it. High above the village, Raven circled wide. She had seen Obafemi that night the way he had run, pale with disbelief, breath shallow with betrayal. And now, as the 6th night approached, she flew to where Era was already preparing her mind for what was coming. She found her alone, by the edge of the yam fields, pulling weeds like any other villager. But Raven knew better. Her eyes were distant. Her spirit was restless. Raven landed quietly. He knows. Era froze. Obafemi? Raven nodded. He followed you? He saw the change? Era sat back slowly. Her hands dropped the weeds. Did he say anything? Not yet. But his eyes are not the same. Era closed her eyes. A long breath left her chest. She didn't cry. She had run out of tears long ago. "Then I don't have time," she said. That night, the palace of Odell slept. Guards leaned on their spears, half dreaming of pepper soup and daughters-in-waiting. The moon was heavy and slow, cloaked behind clouds. Era moved like shadow. She slipped through the courtyard like she belonged there. She had memorized the patterns, the corners, the cracks. The herbs she crushed under her fingers masked her scent. She reached the archive room near the back. No one came here but the scribes. Inside, beneath loose stone tiles, hidden in a cloth-wrapped bundle, were the two sacred rods, carved from silver-gold alloy, humming faintly with energy no human had touched in decades. She didn't hesitate. She took them, wrapped them tight in a leather pouch, and disappeared into the night. Obafemi woke with a start. Something was wrong, huh? He stood and looked around the hut. The mat was cold, the fire was out. The silence didn't feel like silence. He stepped outside. That's when he saw it. A faint footprint in the mud, her print, leading away from the village. And just behind it, the tip of something metal, barely dragging along the path. His mind connected the dots too fast. The rods, the palace, the betrayal. "It wasn't just me," he muttered. "She lied to all of us." He went back inside, lifted the floor mat, and pulled out the old leather sack. His hunting gear was still there, dusty, worn but ready. The same gear he had worn the day he caught his first tiger. The same gear he had worn when he buried his father, killed by a beast's paw. He strapped on the blade, tied the headband, slipped the bow across his back. And then he left. By the time the first rooster crowed, Era was already halfway to the willow tree. She moved fast, even through rough terrain. The rods throbbed faintly in her pouch, growing warmer as she neared their resting place. The forest opened before her like it remembered. But just behind her, moving slower, but gaining ground, was the man she once called husband. And on his face was not love. It was the grief of someone who gave everything and felt it all turn into a lie. The river had always been there. Long before Odell, long before Obafemi, even before Era remembered who she was. It moved like time, steady, deep, and unbothered by the noise of the world. Now, it stood between two people who once shared a mat. Obafemi spotted her from the trees. She was on the far side of the riverbank, barefoot, the hem of her wrapper wet with dew. The leather pouch tied across her back held the two sacred rods, glowing faintly, pulsing like they knew they were close to the willow tree. She hadn't seen him yet. Obafemi didn't step into view, not immediately. He just watched. Her body was tired, her breath uneven, but her steps sure. It made something twist in his chest. He stepped forward. She turned, startled at first, then still. Their eyes met across the river. No words came for a long time. Just the sound of water moving between them, like a truth that couldn't be touched. Then Era spoke, softly. "You followed me." Obafemi said nothing. "How long have you known?" His voice was flat. "Since the night I saw the beast." She flinched, but nodded. "Then you know everything I am." "No," he said. "I know everything you hid." The words stung. She stepped closer to the water's edge, just far enough that the tips of her toes touched the current. "I didn't lie to you. Not with my heart. I only hid the rest. To protect us. Protect us from what? He snapped. The truth? From knowing I was sleeping beside a thing that walks like a woman, but lives like a shadow. Don't call me a thing. Her voice cracked slightly, but she stood tall. I loved you, Obafemi. I still do. Then give me the rods, he said, eyes narrowing. Toss them across. Walk away. Don't come back to Odell. Era's throat tightened. I can't. I have to finish what I started. Then don't pretend this is about love. She looked down. The rods on her back pulsed again, as if they knew this pain, as if they had watched this happen before, many lifetimes ago. You were the one thing I chose, she said. Not Sango, not the forest, not the mission, just you. Obafemi's hands clenched at his sides. You chose silence, he replied. You chose secrets. You let me look at you every day and never see the whole picture. I was afraid. So was I, he said. I gave you everything I had. My name, my house, my heart. You gave me pieces. She stepped back from the water. Then keep your house, keep your name, but don't stand in my way. And then she turned. She didn't run. She walked. Slow, steady, like her bones had just remembered how heavy they truly were. Obafemi watched her disappear into the trees on the far side. Then he exhaled sharply, like breath had been caught in his chest for too long. He dropped to one knee, fingers digging into the wet soil. He wanted to scream, to cry, to forget. Instead, he stood and began to move along the riverbank, searching for a place to cross, searching for a way to make the ending his. Behind him, the water kept flowing. It didn't judge. It didn't choose sides. But it carried the weight of every word that had passed across it. And it knew something that neither of them did yet. That this was no longer just about love. It was about what must be finished. At any cost. The willow tree stood taller than any tree had a right to. Its trunk was wide enough to shelter a family. Its leaves hung like curtains, long and whispering, brushing gently against the sacred soil beneath. And in the heart of the grove, where time moved slower, the wind carried only one name, Sango. Era stepped into the clearing. She was barefoot, her wrapper torn at the hem. The pouch on her back still held the two sacred rods, now warm to the touch, humming softly, like they recognized where they were. The animals were already there. Lion stood still beneath the lowest branch, his eyes calm but unreadable. Raven perched in the crook of the tree, feathers slightly damp from morning mist. Snake curled in the roots, unblinking. Tiger was there too, breathing hard, pacing like a storm waiting for thunder. And Monkey leaned against the trunk with folded arms, no smirk on his face this time, just quiet. Era said nothing. She walked slowly to the base of the tree. Her steps were light, but each one carried 5 years of weight, of silence, of guilt, of choices. She untied the pouch, pulled out the rods. They were beautiful, slender, silver gold, etched with markings that looked like language and lightning at once. She knelt. The wind stilled. And then, clang. She struck the rods together. Once, the ground trembled slightly. Twice, the sky seemed to darken, then flash again with golden light. Thrice, and then, the willow tree pulsed. A deep, ancient hum rolled through the forest floor, up through the animal's paws and wings and skin. The branches shivered, and the bark began to glow. And then, He opened his eyes. Not from the tree, but within it. Sango. His voice came not like thunder, but like fire, cracking wood slowly. Era. She dropped to her knees, head bowed low. I am here, she whispered. The god spoke again. Have you completed your mission? Era's voice shook. No, I have not brought the war you prepared me for. I have not led them. I have not returned power to the grove. She paused, then lifted her head slowly. I only ask to live as a woman. I have known love and grief, and I no longer wish to carry the weight of the old fire. The grove held its breath. Sango's voice came lower now, slower. You carry more than you know? Era nodded. And I would lay it down, if you will let me. A long silence followed. Then, the light softened. Sango's presence faded, not with anger, but with peace. It is done. Just 3 words. But they changed everything. The willow tree dimmed. The ground stilled. The rods turned cold in her hands. Era exhaled a breath she hadn't known she was holding. Then she stood. But not everyone agreed. Tiger's growl started low. It grew fast. You abandon us, and he blesses you. His eyes burned, his muscles tensed. No one moved. My cubs are gone, he roared. My family buried. And she walks free? He lunged. Era ran. Not to fight, not to hide, just to live. Through the trees past the glowing moss, the sound of her footsteps barely outran his fury. He tore after her, no reason left in his eyes, only rage. She slipped through the undergrowth, heart pounding. The rods bounced in their pouch. Her bare feet slapped wet stone. Then she saw it. The cliff. No time to turn. Behind her, Tiger let out a roar that cracked through the trees. She didn't think. She jumped. The fall was fast. Air rushed past her ears. The forest spun, and then water. Cold, deep, unforgiving. She sank, then kicked upward. The rods slipped from her grasp, but she clutched the pouch tight enough to keep them close. When she finally broke the surface, gasping, the world was blurred and echoing. She swam to the shore, chest heaving, body shaking. And there, on the rocks, was Tiger, waiting, his eyes locked on her. He leapt. The lake was still. Its surface rippled with the weight of what had just fallen into it. A woman with gods in her blood and guilt in her lungs. Era kicks through the cold, her fingers clutching the soaked pouch with the sacred rods inside. Her body ached. Her breath stung, but she swam anyway. Because the forest wasn't done with her. And neither was fate. She pulled herself onto the rocky shore, hands scraping moss and mud, knees trembling as she rose. Her wrapper clung to her skin, heavy with water. Her breath came in quick, shallow bursts. Then she looked up. Tiger stood at the edge of the rocks. Waiting? His fur was soaked with sweat, his eyes wild, locked onto hers with a fury that no god's judgment could calm. He didn't see a woman anymore, just betrayal wrapped in flesh. He growled, deep, low, final, and then he leapt. Claws out, mouth wide, every muscle of his body aimed to end her. Era didn't scream. She didn't even flinch. But someone else did. A figure moved between them like a shadow torn loose from time. Obafemi. His blade caught the moonlight. A flash, a memory, a warning. And then it found its mark. Steel met flesh. Tiger's roar became a strangled cry. Obafemi's strike was deep, one final act from a man who had nothing left to lose but the truth. Tiger collapsed beside the rocks, twitching once, then going still. But the victory came at a price. Obafemi dropped to his knees. Blood poured from his side, fast and dark. The claws had cut through him deep. Era caught him just as he fell forward, her hands trembling as she pressed them to the wound. No, no, stay with me. Obafemi smiled faintly, teeth stained red. So it was true, he whispered. All of it. I was going to tell you. Too late, he said. But I still came. His hand found hers, weak, cold. I couldn't let him take you. Era's tears fell freely now, mixing with the lake water, the blood, the dirt. She held him like the wind might steal what was left. You should have let me go. I tried, he murmured. But even hunters can't kill love. Then his hand slipped from hers, and he was gone. She didn't scream. She didn't move for a long time. She just stayed there wrapped in silence, holding the body of a man who once held her without understanding her, and still chose to protect her. She kissed his forehead, whispered something no one heard, then stood. She returned the rods to the palace herself. No ceremony. No guards to stop her. No one dared ask where she had gone, or what had happened to the man who used to walk beside her. She placed the pouch at the feet of the shrine, bowed once, and left. No one saw her again. Some say she disappeared into the forest that same night, barefoot, head high, walking deeper and deeper until even the wind lost her trail. Others claim she took the form of a bear once more and roams the edge of Odell, watching in silence. But the trees remember. They remember her name. They remember the woman who carried fire in her heart, fur beneath her skin, and love too wild to last. They remember the beast who dared to choose peace, and paid for it with grief. They remember Era, a woman with a bear's heart, a beast who once dared to love, a legend the forest will never forget.